Hello, and welcome to our new exhibition, Sounds Better, an exploration of sound and creativity. There is an interpretation available for you to take home and interact with. This will include gallery maps, and the corresponding page will be open next to each piece of work. Turn right at reception in Woodend, and you will find your way to the main entrance of the gallery. Knock on our door. How does it feel to be in control of the sound you're making? What message are you conveying to the person on the other side? Push the button. Chromesthesia, or sound-to-colour synesthesia, is where sound involuntarily evokes an experience of colour, shape and movement. We've been thinking about what colour sounds like to us. You are invited to push the buttons to see what soundscapes we've created that reflect our perceptions of colour. Clap. Two hands together make a sound. We clap hands and make friends, sing repetitive songs, learn a beat and praise. From cradle to grave, we thrive on sounds of applause. Clap your hands together and see what sound it makes. Test card. The repetition and routine of switching on the TV, the comfort of hearing the jaunty theme tune of your favourite quiz, the drum roll before the right or wrong answer, another drum roll as we are left in suspense, the drama of other people's lives taking us away from our worries of the real world. These musical notes punctuate our lives. There are melodies too, tinkling tunes from childhood cartoons and playful companions. They are as familiar to us as lullabies and nursery rhymes. Listen, the hum of the test card, signalling that it is nearly time to close the day. To listen to this soundscape and all other soundscapes as part of this exhibition, place the earphones on your ears and lift the lid of the radio to start the soundscape playing. To stop the soundscape, push the lever back down and place the earphones back on the radio, ready for the next person. Sound machine. Imagine the earliest encounters of talking machines. Watching magical lantern slides and listening to songs on an old gramophone, courtesy of the infamous Dr. Nick, our students were inspired to create sketches and designs for their future-facing sound machine. They saw nature in the shapes of the old gramophone, a huge flower, a long-stemmed weed. They listened to modern tunes from Ollie Murs whilst they created this sculpture, but it is the timeless notes and conversations from the gardens that have inspired their soundscape for this piece. Find the radio containing the soundscape to the right of the sound machine. Driftwood chime. The collaboration between Cross Lane Hospital and our gallery spaces started before the sound project officially began in Space to Be. One of the first pieces to be made was a small driftwood mobile. It invited visitors to touch, and in touching they found that the driftwood pieces knocking together made the most beautiful chime. Participants from Cross Lane decided they wanted to replicate the mobile, making it much bigger, amplifying the natural sounds of sandy and storm-battered beaches. You are invited to touch this part of the exhibition. The walls have ears. We started our conversation with the gentle art of playing with clay, observing each other's ears and creating these delightful objects. We found it easier to talk when our hands have had something to do. We've questioned how well our own ears function in the process of listening to sound, and how else we experience sound and noise. In our heads, our hearts, our toes and our fingertips, in the vibrations that reverberate around our bodies. In these first conversations, we realised that our ears are not only the start of the story, but also everything in the story. Realising we were creating a wall of ears, we were able to reflect on the disturbing climate of fear, created by new technologies and political agendas. These conversations led us to consider these fears in every stage of our project, to ask permission before making recordings, to keep our exhibition as low-tech and as feasible as possible, to give our participants opportunities to explore and question the technology we do use. We hope our wall of ears helps others to consider and give voice to the future we do want, but also our artwork asks you to embrace the beauty of ears in all their quirky formations and diversity. Our wall of ears asks you to consider your own self-care, to care for all ears with compassion. Our wall of ears beckons you to create a new narrative and respect others' sound privacy. We invite you to make an ear as you reflect on how well we know our ears and what we can do to take care of them. We also invite you to take an ear as a tactile reminder to care for all of our senses as well as our emotional well-being. You will now travel through an arched doorway. Please mind the small drop slope as you travel from wooden flooring in the main gallery to lino flooring. The ear of truth. Being heard in times of emotional pain and distress feels vital in our journey to recovery, but a listening ear is only helpful if we also feel we are being believed. We invite you to talk to the ear of truth. There is paper to the right-hand side of the ear where we ask you to write down sounds that bring you comfort, sounds that bring you joy, and even fears that you may have. The ear of truth is non-judgmental, is someone you can trust with your confidence. Place your paper down the chute into the basket and let a listening ear take the weight that you may carry. Lean in and remember being small in this world. Shell ears. As children, maybe as adults too, we place a shell to our ear to find the sea inside. Is it something musical that happens in this moment? We are truly convinced. Is the ocean really caught in this miracle of nature, or is it simply our own heartbeat, a pulse that we experience? There are two soundscapes accompanying these sculptures. There is a bench placed behind the two, for you to sit and listen. Wall of silence. You are invited to use our ear defenders in any part of this exhibition. We have talked about silence as much as we have talked about sound. Our wall represents the need for silence when we want to block out the world. Sometimes we simply want to turn down the volume. In this space, our wall also represents the trauma of silence, how quiet times have a habit of making space for intrusive thoughts. We embarked on this project with many assumptions. We assumed that silence is equivalent to solace, that silence brings us peace. And whilst this may be true for some of us, we've heard how silence itself can be disturbing. If you are comfortable, we invite you to use the ear defenders to sit on the bench and reflect how you find peace and what that sounds like. If silence does not bring you solace, then at least we hope you feel heard in this conversation. Tell me a story. Once upon a time, we listened to a story. We curled up in a cosy corner, a blanket around our knees to listen. Once upon a time, we told a story. We embellished our real lives and we sought to entertain. We learned quickly the power of a good story, the power to change perceptions, the power to make our audience laugh out loud. Once upon a time, we found solace in a story, found ourselves immersed in something imaginary, something so fantastical it gave us new truths. And in this place, we wrote and told our new stories, remembered how it feels to rediscover our creative selves, to soothe each other with words. You are invited to touch anything in this part of the gallery. The cushions are to be sat on, the bean bags and piano to be played with, the books to be read. There are sensory bags under the bench to discover. This space is for imagination. Thank you for coming to see Sounds Better, an exploration of sound and creativity.